Okay, here we are. What's going on, everybody? Billy Carson, aka Forbidden Knowledge. What if I told you that there's a potential, there's a possibility based on the Epstein files that he added his DNA code to the vaccine? Let's take a look at that tonight. It's going to be a great talk tonight. Let's see what we got going on. And also, don't forget, everyone, uh, like this video and make sure you share it. It's going to be a great talk tonight. I'm chiming in on Instagram. I just connected Instagram. We're on several Facebook pages. We're on YouTube accounts. Let's get this word out tonight. Okay, let's get this word out because old Epstein has been up to a lot of crazy things, wasn't he? And I think he still is up to a lot of crazy things, by the way, because I don't believe that he's dead. But when you start to look into the whole planning of the pandemic with Bill Gates, when he was actually working on creating actual simulations way back in 2017, and then when you read about what he was doing with his own DNA, we're going to get into that tonight. All right, so hang tight. We'll be right back.
Forbidden Knowledge Television.
This is logged in on November 25th, 2023, Eastern Standard Time. Sensitive material has been breached and it is now in front of the public. This is very sensitive documentation and the world will be in total chaos if leaked, and it is now leaked. All of it. Not one document, all of it. Place of exploitation, Forbidden Knowledge Television. This must be stopped.
All right, welcome back, world. Let me check out the live chat, see who we got in the live chat. All right, here we go. Another Epstein story. There are so many files that we can't even begin to tap into everything. And a good friend and co-worker, Matthew Tovey, just sent me an image that I want to also bring up to the screen because we're talking about genetic modification. So we're going to go into the ancient past and see what was going on there. And we'll see where Epstein got some of his potential ideas for what he was up to with the Jabberwocky that everybody was pretty much forced to get. All right. Still got to use the code words on over here, don't I? But that Jabberwocky, which so many millions of people used, there you go, I sent it to myself. We're going to find out tonight what he had to do with that. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are going to be upset. A lot of people are going to be so upset. Oh my goodness. I mean, the depths of this plot and this agenda were so deep and so treacherous and so evil. It's not even enough for one movie. It would have to be a movie series, like you have Star Wars episode 1 through 7 or whatever. This would have to be an Epstein movie series. This is a $1 billion movie franchise. That's how big this is. And every episode would air on Halloween, October 31st every year. The horrific things that I can't show on this podcast, I can't show them on this YouTube account because my account will get taken down. It's just that simple. There are images and videos in those Epstein files that are so gruesome and disgusting. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of y'all were on my Facebook Live the other day. I kind of broke down. I had a meltdown. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a complete meltdown. It really got to me. It really got to me. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why it got to me. I'm going to pull this back up in a second. I'm going to tell you the reason why it got to me. So, coming from a person myself who is an actual parent, I have 2 daughters and 3 sons. I have 3 granddaughters and 2 grandsons, right? If you have any kids or grandkids, even nieces and nephews, and you see the innocence in their eyes, you see the beauty in a child and how they have the whole future ahead of them until they run into a snare like Epstein and his global pederast club. And going back to my own personal situation, something I've never talked about online is my daughter, one of my daughters, my second youngest daughter. She's now, April's 34, so she's probably 32. She's 32 now, yeah. I got too many kids. Anyway, 32. She went out back in 2000, I believe it was 2010. She went on a date. She went on a date with one of her friends from high school, and they went to the Regal Cinema on Sheridan and I-75. Very innocent date. 2 young teenagers going on a date. And they're at a movie. My oldest daughter, who is now 34, is the one that drove them there and dropped them off and kind of hung out. And they went to the movie by themselves. While they were in the movie, they were watching a great movie. I guess, they put their arms around each other. They were holding hands. And at one point, they kissed during the movie. Nothing crazy. Actually, very innocent, especially, at that age, not a big deal. They didn't know that they were being watched by a predator. So a man at the time, I believe he was about 32, was watching my daughter and her date in this movie theater. And he decided this was going to be his prey for the evening. And so he approached them as the movie ended. He walked up to them very briskly and abruptly. And he flashed his FBI badge. Now, this badge, we found out later, was not a real FBI badge. It's fake. And it scared them. He was like, "I'm here to tell you that you violated the law." Now, I know this sounds crazy, but my daughter and even the guy she was with were green. I mean, when I say green, I'm talking about super green. I grew up in the streets. They grew up in mansions, okay? So there's a big difference. And of course, never seeing any illegal activity, barely even hearing any kind of slang or anything like that, not really knowing what was going on. They believed what this guy said because he looked official. And he told them that, for kissing, he can take them to jail. And he asked her date, "Do you play any sports?" And he said, "Yeah, I play football for the high school." And he says, "Do you have any college offers?" And he was like, "Yeah, I have several colleges looking at me." And he was like, "Well, I can ruin your college career with this. I can ruin your college career." So he nutted up and got scared. I know it sounds crazy because a lot of y'all are like, I would have pimp slapped this joker. But that's neither here or there. They were very, very innocent kids. So this kid gets scared, and this fake FBI agent tells him to get out of there before he destroys his career. He left my daughter in the damn movie theater with this clown. In the court case, you see him drag her through the theater towards the back doors. He pushes the back door open, and now the outside camera behind that theater has got a video of him in an angle leaning out of the door with my daughter's arm in his hand. He's securely holding her arm, and he's looking and scanning. A lot of cars are moving because a movie had just got let out. And he's thinking, if I drag her out of here, I could tell what he's thinking. there's going to be too many people witnessing this girl screaming and carrying on, screaming, help me, probably. So he closed the door. He opened the door again. He realized it wasn't going to happen. He closed the door. Then he proceeded to take her into one of the empty theaters. And he went behind the curtain. And that's where it got crazy. Now, there was still a chance to save her. There was one of the people that work in the cinema, the cleaning crew, the employees. One of them, a female, she walked and saw something going on. She walked back there and looked directly behind the curtain at them and saw my daughter was, and still is, tiny. At that time, she might have weighed 105 pounds soaking wet. And this guy was huge. I mean, big dude, like 3 of my biceps, big guy. Clearly you see that man, child, no way you can make a mistake about that. She saw them back there and she turned around and just walked away. And that's why a law got changed, because of this case, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So he then proceeds to sexually assault my daughter behind this curtain. It's tough. And what he did was he actually put his phone number, when he got done, he put his phone number in her phone and said he was going to take her out on another date. This is how sick this guy was. He put the phone number in there and he hit send, but he hit end almost instantly. It came out to be 1.2 seconds inside the phone record. And then he deleted the call stack. And then he fled the scene. Of course, we find out I'm at home, I'm relaxing for the weekend. I found out about this. I hear this news and I'm going crazy. I mean, I'm going ballistic. And the cops, not a peep, not a care, very nonchalant, wasn't like a priority. You could tell from the way they were acting and moving, it was like, oh, whatever. And I knew that the cops weren't going to get shit done. I just knew it. I kept checking in with them, nothing. I said, okay. I said, I remember one thing about the story. She told me that this guy put the number in her phone and then pressed end. I couldn't see it in the phone, in the login. At that time I was with AT&T. I contacted AT&T and they were able to send me the data, the ping data. And I got that ping data. And from that ping data, I got his cell phone number, the one he plugged into the phone. And I took that and I went to Intellius.com, and I did a reverse phone lookup. And I found his address. I found all of his relatives and everything. And then I went and I got my guns. I got my Rottweilers, because that's what I call them, Rottweilers. And I went straight over to his house in Davie and I parked across the street. And I had my guns on the dashboard, fully loaded, locked and loaded. 24-round clips. I sat and watched that house for a week. It took everything in me. When I found out that the guy, by day 2 of watching this guy's house, I found out that he was, the house was for rent. He was renting that house. I started tracking him to work, found out where he worked. He worked for the government, but he wasn't an FBI agent. He was a government worker, government employee. Probably how he swiped that badge from somebody or made a copy or whatever. And I knew everything about him. I knew where he liked to eat, where his snack places were, what gas stations he went to. I knew everything. I had my friends who were realtors go check the house is up for sale, even though he was renting it. So they went in as if they were looking to buy it. And they mapped out the entire house. I knew every nook and cranny in that freaking house. I knew more about that house than he knew about that damn house. By day number 5, I was ready to do him in because the cops still hadn't done nothing. But I was building a complete dossier, a record of information on this guy from top to bottom. I knew everything about him. The thing that stopped me was the last day when I was pretty much fully committed. 2 little boys ran out the house. They looked like twins. And one of them grabbed his leg and the other one was running around in the yard. And when I saw those little boys, that's what stopped me. They came out right on cue. Those 2 little boys saved his life and my life. Literally. Literally. So after that, I said, okay, I'm going to take this file that I built. I got a file the thickness of a Bible. I'm taking this back to the sheriff. So I go back to the sheriff. I take this big ass file, it's literally like this, just like this. I take that file and I slam it on his desk. Bam! I say, go pick his ass up before I do him in. Grab the paperwork, open it up. What's all this? I said, this is the shit y'all ain't doing. I did it. I know everything about this guy. I can tell you how many pieces of corn he has in his shit. They looked at it. They went and picked his ass up because they knew I wasn't playing around. I said, the next time you see me, he gonna be dead and you're gonna be locking me up. And that's gonna make the news that you guys didn't do your job and I had to go do it for you. They got off their asses and they went and picked his ass up. Once they locked him up, that wasn't even the end. He has a twin brother, most likely why he has twin kids, because twins run in families. Twins run with twins. So if you're a twin, you're highly likely to have twins, in your downline, if your offspring. So it made sense. He had a twin brother. He blamed this whole incident on his twin brother, who lived in California, by the way. So now that delayed a lot for this whole trial and the case and everything else, because now they had to go find the brother. They had to extradite him. They had to lock him up. He lost his job. He lost everything he had, this guy. I heard he lost everything. He got arrested, locked up. That takes weeks. Then they have to extradite you from that side of the country to this side of the country. That takes weeks. By the time they got him here, damn near a couple months then went by. Then he got to come get booked in and get locked up over here. That takes more weeks. Then he's got to get it was a mess. By the time it was all said and done, they proved that the brother had nothing to do with it. And they released him to the streets of Fort Lauderdale. And he had to find his own way back home and everything. He didn't have nothing. Meanwhile, the guy who really did commit the crime, the one that I was tracking this whole time, he ended up getting his day in court. He ended up getting prosecuted. And his time for all of this was, he ended up getting out in about almost 6 years. That's what he got. Now, we were able to get some laws put in place and some rules put in place, specifically within the Regal Cinemas, with security, with checks and everything else on how they scan the facility and check for criminal activity behind the curtains and always having security at each location and things like that. That's what changed. They had to spend more money on more staff and hiring private security, but they did it because of what happened here. He could have gotten more time, but there was a second girl that was also a victim, but because she snuck out of the house to go to the movies on a different day, it happened to her. She didn't want to testify because she didn't want her parents to know that she had snuck out of the house and wasn't home when this guy sexually assaulted her at the same movie theater, but this time in the parking lot in broad daylight. And that forced them to put cameras in the parking lot because they didn't have any. So he would have gotten a little bit more time, but because she wouldn't testify, didn't happen. So now my daughter, unfortunately, had to go through that ordeal, and I have to be the sad witness to see how it psychologically affected her all these years. It's a tragedy and a pain and a trauma that I don't care how much therapy you go to. I don't care how much love you get. I don't care. Nothing is going to fix that trauma. There's nothing that exists that can fix that. Nothing. She still ain't the same, and she's 32 years old now. That happened 15 years ago. Still ain't the same. It's just something a little off there. So when I see this kind of stuff, this whole Epstein scenario, and when I see government agents lying, covering things up and absolutely lying about the documentation and who's involved, and obfuscating information, obfuscating evidence, it really pisses me off. It brings me back to that same energy I had when I was tracking this guy down. It brings me back to the same energy. I'm not going to lie to you. When I see these people get on the screen and blatantly lie, oh, the Epstein files is a hoax. It's a hoax? We only got a tenth of the files, and I've got video clips and pictures on my computer right now downloading these files with tortured babies. I've got unalived children. I've got babies being burned alive and clawed with this weird kind of a claw, getting stuck with this thing. Children screaming for their parents. And when I say children, I'm talking about children. A girl under the age of 10 being forced to pull down her underwear on a staircase. Another girl, no more than 8 years old, max, being forced to allow a dog to assault her with an adult man there, which I have a screenshot of his face. I've been searching for this guy's face ever since. After the dog got done, then he wanted sloppy seconds. This is crazy. I had 2 really rough days. Because of this, I had 2 really rough days. Because I know the agony that these kids are living with every single day, even though they're adults now. Once something happens like this to you, it's like you go into a time capsule. It's like you don't really ever grow up. And I witnessed this with my own eyes in my own household. You never fully grow up. You stay, whatever year that happened to you, you kind of locked in there. You operate and maneuver as if you were an adult, but man, you're still that little hurt kid, and I see it. And it's sad. And the fact that people have broken the actual federal law to cover up these people, these men and women that committed these atrocious crimes. I can't even say what I want to say on this thing. I can't even fully express and speak exactly how I want to speak on here. But Tim Burchett Congressman Tim Burchett said it the best. I'll use his quote. He said they all need to be hung. Congressman Tim Burchett said they all need to be hung. And I don't rock with many politricksters, but I rock with Tim Burchett. I've been even in a documentary with him about disclosure of UFOs. You know what? He hit it on the nail. Every single one of them need to be drug out into the center of the city. We need to put them up on that tree, get those nooses out, and they all need to be hung in public in broad daylight. The ligature that supposedly Epstein used in his cell, the scientific forensics came out. There's no Epstein DNA on the ligature. So he never hung himself in his cell. And now what's coming out is that there's evidence in the files that were released. I guess somebody's sending us some gifts that federal agents went into his cell the night before he was supposedly unalived. And they also went and erased all the footage. They took the footage and gave the dummied footage. So there's no access to the original raw footage anymore. It's been destroyed. And that's in the files as well. Epstein is alive and well in Israel. They found him on his video game, his video ID, his call tag, whatever y'all kids call it these days, activated, playing Roblox and some other game the other day. And when they found out about it, they tried to put up a statement saying, oh no, it was just this and that, and it was somebody must have been using the same ID, but that's not how these video games work. They always show the previous ID name as well. And when they realized they got caught in their own lie, then they deleted that official statement. They deleted it because they knew they got caught in the lie. Roblox is huge on pedo. And it's one of the biggest ways that these PDFs meet the little kids through that video game. There's no wonder why Epstein was on the same exact game. He probably is the one who funded it and started it. He probably owns that corporation. Anybody in the live chat heard of Life Touch? Life Touch, that's the great name. Didn't they pick a great name for what they do? They take the photos of your kids when you're in elementary, middle, and high school. Life Touch. We've all paid the little fee for the school photos. Well, the people that founded Life Touch, they're in the Epstein files. And no, they're not in there taking pictures. They're in there getting it on. Life Touch is a huge nationwide photo company. They take photos of all your kids. So every single one of our kids, their photos have been looked at by these PDFs. Every single one. Every single one of us are all victims of this scenario. Life Touch. And then what kind of name? Life Touch. That's what they were doing in there. In the files, and I'm going to see if I can describe this without getting in trouble. In the files, Epstein and his cohorts of PDFs, they took babies. Babies. Now, where'd they get the babies? They got some girls pregnant, and they, not at the hospital. They didn't have the babies in the hospital. They had the babies there. Then they would get these babies, and they would dehydrate the babies by not giving them anything to drink or eat. And when they got to the point of complete dehydration, then they would put their mushroom tips in the baby's mouth because the babies would suck very hard because they were so dehydrated. Crazy. Ted Gunderson, former FBI agent Ted Gunderson, tried to tell us about this so many times. I posted Ted Gunderson on my Instagram account, Forbidden Knowledge, back in 2014, 2015, 2016. Let's see what was going on. Let me see if I can find a clip. Let's see what the kids were saying first, and then I'm going to bring on Ted Gunderson next.
Through secret tunnels, and after everyone was acquitted, archaeologists found the tunnels. In 1983, children at McMartin Preschool in Manhattan Beach made allegations, not vague claims. 360 children, consistent descriptions, taken through underground passages to hidden rooms, photographed, rituals, multiple perpetrators, medical evidence documented abuse, 7-year trial, longest in U.S. history, all defendants acquitted. Media declared it satanic panic, proof children fabricate abuse through suggestion. Then archaeologist E. Gary Stickle excavated the demolished site. He found hand-dug tunnel systems beneath the preschool, entrance points where children described them, exit locations matching testimony. He published his findings, but McMartin remained the definitive false allegation case, which raises one question. If children fabricated the tunnels through suggestion, why did archaeologists find them exactly where children said they'd be?
The McMartin Preschool case in Manhattan Beach, California. The children there claimed there were tunnels under the school. They were taken into the tunnels and through the tunnels up into the trap door of a bathroom in a triplex next door, placed in automobiles, and prostituted in the community. These are 2, 3, and 4-year-old children before they entered kindergarten. In addition, the children claimed that they were flown into the mountains where they were involved with adults in robes, black robes, chanting, candles. They talked about the brown babies who were cut up, actually sacrificed. And in checking into this and
That's former FBI agent Ted Gunderson. Let's see if I have another clip of him as well.
A disgrace. I personally investigated the Oklahoma City bombing case. Huge cover-up. Jack Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. Bobby Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. World Trade Center, huge cover-up. Okay. Terrorism. They're using it as an excuse to take away our constitutional rights and our civil liberties. The Bilderbergs. The Illuminati, Bilderberg, New World Order, globalists are the element behind this. It dovetails into the satanic movement, and this movement has infiltrated into our intelligence community, the once great FBI and the CIA.
That man was the boss of hundreds of FBI agents. And he just couldn't take it anymore. What he was witnessing, what he knew, what he saw, what he realized. And they didn't listen to the kids. Now, when a kid is telling you something's happening or something's going on, you got to pay attention. Maybe they didn't want to pay attention because they were all in on it. It went to the highest of highest levels. It's one of the most sickest things and the most deepest, darkest things I've ever seen, ever. I'm going to talk about what we can do towards the end of this, because there is something that we can do. There is something that we can absolutely do. It's going to take courage, though, so we're going to see how much courage people have. So when I looked up what Epstein was up to, and I saw all this footage and these emails and messages of how they were discarding the bodies. In one of them, he says, it's like a shrimp. You pop the head off and keep the body. And they were talking about burying these unalived children. And I'm thinking, man, how much more sick can it get? And then I find an email where he buys 400 gallons of sulfuric acid. He buys 400 gallons of sulfuric acid. What is he doing with this acid? Well, anybody who's watched a good mafia movie knows exactly what he's doing with the acid. The guy ordered a tanker full of acid. delivered to the island. It's a lot of acid. That will clean a lot of evidence. It will dissolve a lot of body parts, won't it? It'll even dissolve the bones. And then you have these puppets working for the government that are in some way fighting for this stuff to stay hidden, fighting for it to be obfuscated, fighting for it to be destroyed and taken away, disregarded. Pam Bondi's famous quote is that if this is so deep that if we prosecute everyone, the system will collapse. Collapse the motherfucking system then. It needs to collapse. It needs to collapse. I don't understand how any one of these people can go home to their own families, kiss them goodnight, and then go to sleep. Even, it's just, this is wild. Let me show you a couple more things before I talk about this DNA that this guy's into. First, let's take a look at this. Katie Johnson, and that's the real court case in this image. And this is only one of two 13-year-old court cases, two separate 13-year-olds, two separate cases, two different families on two different sides of the country make a claim that they were raped by this guy. The parents were paid, hush money was put out, NDAs were signed. This guy's mentioned over 30,000 times in the actual preliminary files that were dropped. Forget about the whole damn file. I heard today that it's estimated to be about 1 million mentions, 1 million mentions in the Epstein files. If you are that close to someone, and if you are that integrated with someone at the level that Epstein was, you know exactly what he's doing. So let's say hypothetically, he didn't actually do anything, but he knew and knows what was going on. Now, knowing that someone's committing a crime, not so much of a crime. All right. I can be walking down the street and see you break into a store. I'm gonna mind my damn business. I'm gonna just keep on walking, right? In that particular case, if the cops stop me, I mean, I didn't commit a crime. I know I'm just now a witness. Maybe that person was breaking into their own store because they left their keys at home. I don't know. Right? Not so much of a crime. But if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody breaking into a building and I understand and know exactly what they're doing, and then that person comes out and says, don't say anything to anybody. I know you saw me, but don't say anything to anybody. And then the cops stop me down the street and say, hey, did you see this guy break into this building? And the guy's right there with the cop. And I say, no, I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Now that's a crime. That's an actual offense. That's a felony. That's a felony. Let's take a look at some of these laws. Somebody said Billy's from the hood. He talking about breaking into stores. You already know. 305 in the house. 1 second, guys. X, I'm gonna call you right back. I'm on the podcast. All right. Let's take a look. All right. Let me pull up this law. Crime reporting laws. Let's take a look at this because, I want to prove a point tonight. I really want to prove a point. Let's see what the law says about knowing about a crime being committed and then obfuscating it or lying about knowing about it. The first thing let's look at is what happens if a federal employee or any employee or person lies under oath about the information pertaining to the Epstein case. Well, what happens is perjury, false declarations, false statements, obstruction of justice, civil rights violations. And then it goes on to give cases, Brady and Giglio violation, career-ending consequences. So by this case right here, Brady versus Giglio, federal agents must disclose credibility issues. 2 key Supreme Court precedents, Brady versus Maryland and Giglio versus the United States. So this agent was barred from testifying, forced to resign, terminated, revocation of badge and firearm, loss of pension. That should be what happens to the FBI director, as he had blatantly lied in court under oath. He blatantly lied under oath.
Consequence was
Trying to see if I could find his statement here. Well, we already know what his statement was. Under oath, he said Epstein files don't have any evidence worth following up on. There's no need to make any arrests, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing. And that there's nothing there. And at the moment that they find anything worthwhile, they'll chase these people down and they'll lock them up. But so far, there's nothing worthwhile. In February, the Epstein file client list is on my desk, Pam Bondi. In July, Pam Bondi, Epstein didn't have a client list. By the definition of the law, by the letter of the law, they have both committed felonies. Now, if a regular person on the street does that, well, then they're in worse trouble than people who work for the government. You'll be arrested immediately. You'll be locked up. Obstruction of justice. You'll be given aiding and abetting charge. They are aiding and abetting. They're aiding and abetting a PDF, and they know it. They know it. Let's see what she has to say here.
Talk about the Epstein files, and he was extremely angry at me that I had signed the discharge petition to release the files. I fully believe that those women deserve everything they're asking. They're asking for all of it to come out. They deserve it. And he was furious with me.
What did he say?
He said that it was going to hurt people.
It's going to hurt people. The reason why this information has been locked up and blocked from being exposed, the people behind this ring, this PDF ring, these powerful men and women, is because they're good old buddies with old DT, And because they're good old buddies, I can't let my friends go to prison for assaulting these kids. I can't let my friends go to prison for unaliving these little kids. Can I? I got to protect my buddies. That's a federal crime. The moment that they began redacting these criminals, hindering the investigation, forcing these files to get put in a locked safe for decades, for years, they all committed crimes. Every single person that delayed the release of these documents and that helped to obfuscate them, that helped to put the black lines on them, even those people are now liable and have committed an absolute crime. Every single one of these people need to be held accountable. They need to be arrested. And they need to be put in prison for life without parole. And I'm talking about Pam Bondi, the director of the FBI, all these people, Kash Patel, all of them, for what they've done here. They need to be arrested and put in prison for life without parole. And they should never, ever be allowed any visitation from any of their family members, especially their own kids, should never be able to see them. And that should be their punishment for what they've done here. And that's being kind. That's being very kind. Because if it was up to me, it wouldn't be too good, put it that way. It wouldn't be too nice. If it was up to me, it wouldn't be nice. But it's not up to me. They deserve what Tim Burchett said. They deserve the ligature. That's what they deserve. But at least they should be arrested and put in jail. And to put them in general population. Don't put them in any special luxury prisons either. Put them in Gen Pop. Get them in Gen Pop. Let me get to the DNA thing here. So we know that they were planning and working on the plandemic back in 2017. There's records that probably go back further than that. They just haven't all been released yet. There's also records that came out in this batch that was released, where not only were they planning pandemics with an S, the files say pandemics. They were planning pandemics, plural, which is why you kept seeing this clown, Bill Gates, popping up on all these interviews talking about there's going to be another one right behind this one. Well, how the hell do you know that, Bill? You planned it. I mean, we're talking to the guy that created the virus, let it loose on his own system, and then sold antiviruses. This is the guy we're talking to. Now, all of a sudden, this guy is a medical expert, and he's administering vaccines to people. And now, not only does he contract an STD in the files from a young Russian girl, he gives that STD to his own wife. And then in the emails, he's contacting Epstein, begging him to give him the medicine for the STD and trying to figure out how he can dose his wife before she finds out that he gave her an STD. Do you know why they won't lock up Bill Gates? They can't lock up Bill Gates because 70% of the computers are running on his platform. You don't think he has the kill switch? Bill Gates can type in one code on his phone, send one command to a PC, and he can shut down 2/3 of the planet. Just like that, instantly. 2/3 of the planet, software platform, Windows down, off. That's why this man is allowed to walk the streets and do whatever the hell he wants to do. Because he's got them by the balls, just like Epstein had them by the balls. They allowed him to monopolize virtually almost every software hub. And he's got the master plan. He's got the master code, the key. Click, click, off. They know this. I'm pretty sure he's already been questioned and threatened. And he was like, look, if you guys want to play with me, I'll just turn the world off. I'll turn all the PCs off. They won't function anymore. The moment they connect to the internet, they're down. They gave him too much control. Just like they gave Epstein too much control. So their plan has been out. There's also in the files what happens. He's talking about the mRNA and how to modify it for delivery into the cells in his body. Because he wants to rewrite the code in his body. This is Epstein talking. And so he wanted to use the messenger RNA code as a viral protein and take the lipid into nanoparticles. Does that sound familiar to you? What have we been talking about is in the Jabberwocky that they gave everybody. Nanoparticles. We've been talking about, we meaning conspiracy theorists have been talking about this since the beginning. Nanoparticles. And so they use the lipid nanoparticle delivery system to deliver the code into the cell. Because you can't make the delivery without the lipid. The lipid allows it to penetrate the cell. Otherwise, it will just hit the cell wall and bounce off. The lipid allows penetration and absorption into the cell itself, where the DNA is located. And then they try to say, don't worry, it's harmless. It's not going to do anything to rewrite your code. But in these emails, he's talking about it, utilizing it to rewrite code. And he was the guinea pig. He was utilizing it in ways that supposedly were going to give him some longevity. But here's where it gets crazy. In that same email, Epstein is talking about he wants everyone in the world to have his DNA. He wants everyone in the world to have his DNA. And that's the exact DNA. He didn't say I want every woman in the world to have my baby. He didn't say I want to impregnate most of the women in the world so most of the people could be my kids. He said, I want everyone in the world to have my DNA. And he's working with and communicating with the people that are in control, making the RNA, the mRNA, and the other part of it, which goes with the mRNA. It'll come back to me in a second. And he's talking about utilizing that as a delivery system with some of his own DNA. It's quite possible, after me reading that everyone that has gotten that Jabberwocky in their arm is walking around with Epstein's DNA in their body. That's what potentially has happened if he was successful. If he was successful, there are millions of people walking around with some of his genetic code inside of them so that he can live on forever through everyone else. This is sick stuff. This is narcissism 10x. And I've seen narcissists. I've been around narcissists. I've lived with narcissists. This guy is 10x. This is a whole nother level. This man was given so much carte blanche in these emails. He was having threesomes in the palace in the UK, in Britain, England. He was in, Arabian palaces doing the most defiled things. This guy just gets around, doesn't he? They found that he had a ranch, I believe, in Tennessee. And there's a notebook they discovered in that ranch written by a little girl who was victimized. I think they said she was either eight or 10. I can't remember the exact year. And she talked about what they were doing. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. I can't even speak it. Brutal. And the unalivings that happened and it occurred, and the people that came there that were named people, big names, big names. A professor at Harvard was in there, and he wanted a little girl that he could torture. And he was on one of those documents that couldn't be redacted properly, so they found his name. But he was replied to his email, and Epstein asked him, "Did you torture her?" And then Noam Chomsky and Deepak Chopra. Deepak was like, "I want a young little Ukrainian girl." Deepak Chopra, your spiritual leaders out here. I want a young little Ukrainian girl. I knew it was bad, but I'm not going to lie. It's really bad. I remember on my birthday several years ago, I went to Vegas, and I went to David Copperfield's show. David Copperfield was my hero growing up. I mean, the man walked through the Great Wall of China. He floated across the Grand Canyon. I knew all of his stunts, all of his illusions and tricks. Mind-boggling. The day that I'm going to his show in Vegas, I see an article in the news in Vegas talking about him sexually assaulting a young girl, underage. And I'm like, what? No, it can't be. I'm like, this is crazy. Is this to get money? Is this real? I go to the show. I end up on stage in the show. Now I'm on stage. I get called up to the stage. I'm part of the show. Had a great time. He dapped me up and everything else. And I leave. And I dug deeper into that case. And the deeper I dug into that case, the more I realized he most likely was guilty of what was being done here. And it had gotten to the level of an actual court case. And this girl hadn't grown up yet. She was still a little girl. It wasn't like somebody came back 20 years later and tried to say, you did this to me. And then he's in the Epstein files. He's in the Epstein files. He's part of the pederast ring. And I'm like, shit, you got to be kidding me, man. Really? David Copperfield? The amount of people that are into this, now that I'm finding out how deep it goes, it's overwhelming. It's literally overwhelming. It's over the top. The number is super high. It's one of the biggest numbers that has to exist in virtually any type of crime like this. Effie says, have you ever interviewed or would you consider interviewing a victim named Allie Carter? I'd love to interview Allie Carter. I interviewed a victim already. She was on this account. I interviewed her here in my studio, and we talked for about an hour and a half. And I'd love to interview her. Please have her email Cortez, Cortez, at forbiddenknowledge.com. I'm typing it in the live chat. Have her email cortez@forbiddenknowledge.com. What this woman told me off camera, first of all, she was shook. It took a while for me to get her to actually commit to coming over and doing this. And 1 second. Chris, I'm on a live podcast. I'll call you right back. And sorry I had those 2 interruptions, but those are multi-million-dollar interruptions. So those kind of people, you let them know, hey, I'm not ignoring your call. Those are both of those are 2 multi-million-dollar deals. And so she was shook. When I say she was shook, she was visibly shook. And when I wanted to talk to her a little bit about like what she really knew beyond what we could say on camera, she was like checking, making sure I left my phone in the other room, scanning the area, making sure I didn't have any listening devices. She was completely shook. We went into an area in my living room where she felt comfortable. I said, okay, listen, there's nothing recording. Can you please get it off your chest? Like, tell me, you can trust me. I'm not going to reveal your information. And she broke down and she showed me her original invitations that she still has that came from Donald Trump. That I can say because she publicly talked about that already. Her invitations were from Donald Trump when she was a teenager. And after that, all I can tell you is this: it wasn't good. The names, biggest names, the people, the crimes that were committed, the beatings, the torture. And in that show, we talked about why she couldn't mention those specific names. Look at Virginia Guthrie. They stole her mom out of her house last week as punishment for her for speaking out. Well, this young lady that I brought on my podcast, she has a young son. And she said to me specifically, if any of this gets out that she named these particular names, they will come as a punishment and they will take her son and they will torture him. And that's why I committed to not giving out the names. But I have the names. I know who the biggest names are and who these people are. And I'm telling you right now, they're just lucky I don't have the Thanos glove. Because if I had the Thanos glove, Thanos, by the way, Thanos was a hero. He was the hero of the whole movie series. And now I know what Thanos was talking about. After this, I know exactly what Thanos was trying to say. And I wish to God I had that glove. I really do. Like I said, y'all, this really hits home for me. It hits home in a very powerful way because I experienced this in my own household. I saw the trauma. I witnessed the trauma. I witnessed the pain. I witnessed the result of the pain and what it did to her future. Yeah. If you go back into ancient times, you discover that there were these beings called the Anunnaki, also known as the Anuna. The Anuna were the original name. Later in Babylonia, they became the Anunnaki. They also became known as the Netters or the Netiru in Africa. They've been known as the Pantheon, in Pantheon of the gods in Rome and Greece, and Star Brothers in the Americas, and the Aboriginals called them Pleiadians. The Dogon tribe called them the Nomo. They have these names all over the world. And the reason why I bring this up in this talk is because in the ancient text called the Epic of Atrahasis, the Epic of Atrahasis, there is this concept or this idea that came down that the Igigi, I-G-I-G-I, the Igigi, they were tired of doing a lot of the work. They were clearing the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. They were mining. They were building cities. And they got tired of doing the work, and they wanted to revolt against Anu, Enki, and Enlil. and they were going to start a war. This is an ancient text. And then a decision was made to genetically modify the existing being on this planet, which was our cousins, and get them to become the worker bees. And so they did a genetic manipulation, according to this text, and they slayed the god with the hominid, and that's what the text says, and they added their essence to it. So they did some type of genetic modification in some way. And the next thing you know, we were slaves. And we're still slaves to this very day. They just find different ways to keep us enslaved. The best slave is a slave that doesn't know it's a slave. And for them, they masqueraded as gods, even though they weren't. And people did the work for them because they felt like they were honoring the gods, no matter how backbreaking it was. And this genetic modification and this insertion of DNA into the human genome, which is in every single person on the planet today, is the same concept that Epstein was into. And I find in the record that they were talking about requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh and the location of his body buried, the location of the buried Nephilim. Yeah, this is what they're talking about. And you thought this was just a joke, didn't you? Well, these PDFs didn't. They believe it. This is next level stuff. You got to go through these files. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing stuff going on. Epstein's over in Israel chilling. If you commit a crime, a PDF crime specifically, anywhere in the world, and you have an Israeli passport, you can go back to Israel and you can seek asylum there. You can just, if you're Israeli and you have Israeli passport, you can just go back to Israel and live out your normal life. So Epstein's alive. I posted him on my social media accounts, images that were caught of him, image recognition, photo recognition, recognized him as being the same person. He's got these big beards, but it's him. And he's still playing video games. He did that as a jab, like, hey guys, I'm still alive. He's one of those, those genius sociopaths. Kind of leave a calling card like, hey, I got you, I'm still here. And he's still running his ring, by the way. The PDF ring never stopped. Don't think because these files are out that the trafficking has stopped. The trafficking has increased more than ever. Because this ring, the Epstein files, and Epstein's a huge distraction. So behind the scenes, it's on another level already. On another level. I have one more thing I want to share with you because I have to hop on another call soon, but I want to share something with you here real briefly. And thank y'all for being patient with me tonight. This wasn't an easy one to deal with. This was kind of tough. I had my big breakdown a day and a half ago, so it was a little bit easier to get through it today, talking about it. I really had a big meltdown on Facebook the other day, I'm not gonna lie, because this affected my family in a way that is irreparable. You just, there's no way to repair the damage that was done from the guy that I had to hunt down. And I had to hunt him down myself because the cops didn't care. But pivoting into this, I just want to share something with you real quick. A program that I've been running that's been very successful. I have my 4BK Inner Circle program, which just launched. My blueprint program is full. That one is maxed out. And people were still wanting to be a part of my mentoring program. So I launched the 4BK Inner Circle. It's a 12-month journey designed to rewire your mind, remove emotional blockages, realign your identity so that your highest potential becomes the way you live, create, and lead. I only create leaders, not followers. And so the 4 pillars of the 4BK Inner Circle program are mental rewiring. So you're going to rewire your subconscious patterns that create hesitation, self-doubt, internal resistance, so that clarity, confidence, and self-trust become your default. We want warriors, not worriers. I'm sick and tired of the worriers. We need to create warriors and leaders. And that's what this program is all about. Emotional release and inner coherence. So we're going to get clear emotional residue that makes growth feel unsafe and learn to expand without burnout. So we're going to be able to actually clear out this shield that's blocking us from becoming the best version of ourselves. And also identity realignment. Shift how you see yourself and also what you're available for, allowing you to live, decide, and create at your highest potential with ease. And also elite environment mentorship. You're going to be immersed in a high integrity environment with myself, Billy Carson, elite mentors and conscious creators who expect growth and support it and also hold you accountable. I'm building a team of leaders in my program. It's a 12-month Inner Circle curriculum, a progressive framework supporting clarity, alignment, and full potential and embodiment, weekly alignment and integration. I give you guided sessions that support emotional integration, embodied clarity, and sustainable personal growth. I also have weekly mentoring with myself and elite guests, and I mean these people are elite. These are people that have gone from zero to hero, that have built themselves from the ground up, that have learned how to manifest abundance like nobody's business, and are not afraid to give up and teach their secrets on how they become conscious and wealthy at the same time. And also personal assessment with myself. I give you a personal assessment, a direct evaluation of where you are now, what's holding you back, and where your next level of growth and expansion lies. A monthly personal voice note check-in with myself, Billy. Direct reflection, accountability, and personalization, personalized guidance and alignment with where you are and where you're going. And a dedicated personal coach. You get an ongoing one-on-one support to help integrate insights, move through resistance, and translate awareness into real change. And you also get VIP access to the annual 4BK Inner Circle Summit. And I can't wait for that summit. It's going to be amazing. Red carpet, black tie, gown. It's going to be an amazing gathering focused on integration, expansion, connection with me and my team. Looking forward to this. So just follow the link in the comments or in the bio. Okay. See if my mentoring program is a fit for you. Someone from my team will reach out to you, and if not, we'll point you in the right direction with one of our other programs. I have several programs. This one might not be for you, but I do have several other programs that are active and running right now. So click the link and we'll see you on the other side. If you click the link to make that appointment, just keep the appointment, because it's important. Make that your first goal, is that you do what you say you're going to do, that you keep your appointments. All right. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. I appreciate y'all. I love you, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.